Despite myself knowing logically there isn't much use in doing so, I'm someone who spends a lot of time thinking about how certain events could have gone differently to create a better world. When I'm trying to fall asleep or when I'm zoning out while working on my mathematical statistics homework, my thoughts will drift to times I could have said something different to someone, committed to some other path, or just had slightly better luck with something. These rose-colored alternate paths of my life perfectly lead me to exactly what I'm yearning for, despite the minuscule nature of the choices they are created by. They lead me to worlds where a YouTube video gets 1,000 more views, where I enjoy my time in university a bit more, where I don't mess up that conversation with that one girl 2 years ago. I'm also someone who's deeply interested and invested in history and politics, so I often find myself doing the same thing with certain events and movements and leaders. If only they had been able to get a little further. If only they had gotten a few more votes this one time. If only one specific law hadn't been passed. I guess this is why I'll instantly fold whenever a story gives me a "here's what it looks like if things go right" alternate timeline, where we get to see characters who are otherwise suffering shown having more comfortable, happy lives. Episode 7 of Arcane's second season is now one of my favorite examples. I see a unification of my daydream's interests here, the personal, relationship side as well as the political. We see what could have been if that raid from the start of the show had gone a little bit differently, where other than Vi's death, it seems that so many things have lined up perfectly in the aftermath. Seemingly, this event, in addition to preventing the invention of hex tech, led to reconciliation between the two cities, and I'm assuming some sort of program by Piltover to invest in improving the lives of people in the Undercity. The empty bridge, which once divided them, is now filled with lively activity, to the point where the place the bridge starts is almost missable. On the personal level, Ekko and Powder are together, and they make cool science stuff, and if anyone watching looks like this, please message me. My boy Benzo is still alive, Vander and Silco are friends again, Clagger has grown up to be a handsome fellow, and Milo is still here. The sense of community between all these people, which Ekko cherished as a child, has been maintained, and what was once a slum is able to prosper. Now, Ekko isn't daydreaming here. He's been teleported into an alternate reality and is trapped, but what's important here is that he knows this isn't his reality, but he can't help but get attached to it. And I understand why, because I also feel myself attached to this. The first season is largely a complex look into attempts at maintaining peace between two nations, how necessary that peace is, but also how difficult and stressful it can be to find a peace enough people are satisfied with while dealing with everyone's conflicting motivations. It's like a weight being lifted off my shoulders watching Ekko wake up in a world that suddenly doesn't have to deal with any of that, where something happened slightly differently a few years ago and has solved the conflict. We of course don't know the specifics, but it doesn't matter, cause all we need to do is take our grievances, come up with one change that might have fixed it, and then live in the blissful imagination of a better world. The episode easily makes an emotional impact because it appeals to things we were probably already wishing for in season 1. If only these few actions had happened a bit differently, then maybe we could have had peace and prosperity brought to Zaun and everyone's lives would have been better. Looking at Jinx, or Powder specifically, I'm reminded of the quote, "I am somehow less interested in the weight and convolutions of Einstein's brain than in the near certainty that people of equal talent have lived and died in cotton fields and sweatshops." Powder is just another example of someone with genuinely incredible potential to use her mind for great things and the benefit of all of society, a potential which was never found and used for good because of the circumstances of her birth, because of the poverty her community was trapped in, the inaction towards addressing it, and the kinds of leaders it incentivized. This is someone smart enough to help invent time travel, and to see a world where she is able to live well, where she and Ekko can flourish together using their brilliant minds otherwise wasted on war with the help of the Lorax. It makes me really happy. And then it makes me sad again because this isn't what happened. Maybe not everyone relates to how much I care about political issues, but I'm sure we can all understand the significance of Powder and Ekko and the rest of Zaun being able to prosper and relate to wishing small changes could have altered our own circumstances for the better. Like Ekko, we've lost people that we cared about, maybe not to war, but we got in arguments or had people simply drift apart over time. We wish we could still be a part of that community we had before, wish something had happened differently to keep everyone together. We wish we could have told someone how much they meant to us before never seeing them again. I, for one, have too many memories, too many friendships that I wish could have gone differently, whether it was in my control or not. But I guess the obvious thing to say is, we can't change the past, and so we can't live in our idealized fantasies of what could have been. I mean, even when Ekko and Co. literally invent time travel, he ends up limited to 4 seconds. His power then represents a yearning for the ability to change the past, but it's limited by the real inability to alter the most significant moments, those ones which have lingered on our minds long enough to grant themselves a higher kind of importance. He still can't do anything about those, and we definitely can't. We have to accept the world we find ourselves in, no matter how many things we imagine could have gone better. If we don't, we might never improve things in our true reality. I am also often worried about my future. While Ekko is transported to an alternate present in which something out of his control made stuff better, Jayce finds himself trapped in a nightmare of a path he made possible, a future in which his and Victor's hextech allows the destruction of the world. Perhaps this resonates with me a little more because of the work I do with machine learning in school, but I think what this communicates can be a lot broader than that. What if some choice I already made has irreparably set my life on a path I don't desire? Or if we abstract further, what if something that already happened has set the world on a path that will affect my life negatively? In this case, the something that happened is the creation of hextech, the path the world is set on is the apocalypse, and the specific negative effect is getting chased by evil robots and living in a cave. This situation has the added effect of hextech being Jayce's life work, and thus him feeling responsible for this possible future. A lot of us are probably prone to thinking about choices we made in the past, imagining a future those choices have determined, and feeling chained to that future. I know I tend to feel unable to get myself off of certain paths I know I'm dissatisfied with because I feel like I've already committed to them too much. I imagine a future for myself set by choices I already made and feel like I can't really do anything to change course now. By feeling stuck on a certain path and resigning ourselves to it, though, we are the ones making it inevitable for ourselves. This is fear of the future holding us back and trapping us on the wrong path. We don't really know what our future holds until we experience it, and that's why Jayce fights to leave the cave and make it back to the present reality. He resolves to make sure this future doesn't happen. I think it's interesting, and I guess probably intentional, that Ekko and Jayce's parallel storylines in this episode conclude in the same way, despite them dealing with different things. They both return to the present original reality to fight to save it / make it better. Together, they give us a fuller picture of our relationship with time. We don't live in the past, we don't live in the future, and we certainly don't live in an alternate reality where our happiest dreams or worst nightmares are real. So we shouldn't trap ourselves in one moment of the present either, simply imagining either of those things. But what makes this video specifically about Ekko, and not both him and Jayce, is the extra bit of tragedy present in his story. The fact that he must leave his perfect world. His story becomes something a bit more fundamental. Every singular moment we experience must inherently be left behind in order for change to be possible. Maybe we don't want things to change sometimes. We know that each period of our lives is temporary, and yet we wish that some might last forever. But they can't, because we live in a present that is constantly becoming the past. The way we live then is in the present, looking towards the future, striving towards an ideal life, getting as close to it as we can, and not trapping ourselves in one moment, only wishing things could already be better than they are. We have to embrace the present, embrace its imperfections and impermanence, and then we might wield change to improve our lives, making a choice and leaving behind all the other things that moment could have been. That is the only way things can get better.
You ever wish you could just stay in one moment?
Sometimes taking a leap forward means leaving a few things behind.
We've already moved beyond the past, and so we can't have the alternate realities that we imagine. What's tragic about Ekko's story is that he actually could have, but he still chooses to leave, because there's a world that he belongs to, one where this perfect reality was taken from him, but he still has a responsibility to do what he can to make it better. Such thinking has resonated with me recently because, how I see it, there's an alternate reality that was stolen from us younger people, one where most of the problems we currently face in the world were already dealt with, where climate change was handled early on, where corporations can't buy our government, where wages are higher, where housing and healthcare and education are affordable. I have often imagined how different my life could have been if I had grown up in a world where such changes had already happened. Could I have gone to university worrying less about how financially practical my field of study is? Could I have grown up in a world where there were more public spaces for young people rather than land used for cars? Would I have been more social as a child in such a world? And how much better could the world be if less of those potential Einsteins had been trapped in poverty like powder water because our leaders too have ignored their struggles for generations. I guess I'm doing it again. I don't live in that reality. It doesn't do me anything to imagine that I do. I think we all have stuff like this, especially with the current state of things. I'm sure there's lots of people right now wishing something had gone differently. Instead, we live in the reality where we have to be the ones to deal with these issues. And again, not just for political stuff, but for anything that we wish might have gone differently in our lives. I've been worried about not getting everything out of my college education that I could, so instead of despairing over the path I feel like I've set myself on, I've decided I'm going to look for more classes to take outside of my major. I've often wished that I could have been less socially incompetent in the past, but I can't just keep imagining specific past interactions going differently. All I can do is keep doing my best now and putting myself out in the wild to meet and talk to new people. We all have our personal wishes where our community stuck together, where we got to spend more time with people we now miss, where a friend didn't fall down an awful path, or where we got to dance with our own powder. But we don't live in that reality. There is one that we belong to, that we were born into, and it is in that reality's present that, for ourselves and for the people around us and for the world, we must fight to improve ourselves, help others, and make things better. Because despite all its flaws, despite all that we might wish had gone differently before it, the present is the only place where it's possible to change things.
Mais ma meilleure ennemie, c'est toi. Fuis-moi. Le pire, c'est toi et moi.
Hope you got something out of this video. It's been a while since I made one of these, mostly because this semester I've been pretty busy because of school, but also because I've been having a lot of fun with my friends. I watched Arcane Season 2 with them, and I thought a lot of it was kind of a jumbled mess, especially compared to the first season, but Episode 7 actually blew me away and immediately got me to write this. So, again, I hope you thought it was interesting. Share your thoughts on this, or Arcane, or anything you want in the comments. And go outside.